Good day to all our listeners around the world and welcome to another episode of Unveil the Future Season 3. I'm Phương Nga, Marketing and Communication Specialist at the VinFuture Foundation, and I'm delighted to be your host today. Originating from Vietnam, the VinFuture Prize honors scientific breakthroughs that create a better future for humanity. Nominations for the 2026 VinFuture Prize season are now open. Please scan the QR code here for more details. Today is a special occasion. I have the honor of sitting down right here at VinUni, where we are recording this conversation in person with Professor Manh-Huong, Director of the Center for Materials Innovation and Technology, CMIT, and full Professor of Physics at the University of South Florida, USA. He is recognized as one of the top 1% most cited scientists in the world and a Fellow of the American Physical Society, leading groundbreaking research on advanced magnetic materials and sensor technologies. Besides, as director of CMIT at VinUni, Professor Huong not only drives scientific discovery, but also turns innovation into real impact, helping Vietnam build world-class research capacity and translating science into technologies that improve health, sustainability, and quality of life. Professor Huong, it's a true honor to have you with us today, and we are really excited to hear your story and also learn from your experience. And before we begin, may I ask you, how does it feel to be back with VinFuture this year?
Yeah, so I'm very excited to be back to the VinFuture this year, especially this for like 5-year anniversary. And it's my great honor to be here with you today.
I'm also truly honored to have you joining this episode of Postcard 2. And as one of the world's top 1% most cited scientists in physics and material science and Fellow of American Physical Society, your journey has been truly remarkable, from Vietnam to Bristol and now to a professor in the United States. So, could you share what first inspired you to pursue this field and which milestone most shaped your path along the way?
My story really began when I started, studying at the Hanoi University of Science, Vietnam National University. So when I, joined the university, I met a professor. Many, beloved professors and teachers at the physics department at that time. So one of the professor who really inspired me and guided me through my study at the university, the Professor Manh-Huong Phan. So I recognize the importance of physics, especially like material science, how the materials really define and drive the technology, and how it's impact on our society. So this is like very starting point when I, start exploring myself into the science and technologies. And I believe that like a turning point came when I was offered the scholarship to go to Korea in 2001 for a master's degree at Chung Buk National University. And then in 2003, I received overseas research student scholarship from United Kingdom. So I came to the United States to study PhD at the Bristol University. And when you change the studying environment and also the research environment from Vietnam to South Korea and to the UK, so you experience this very dynamic research environment and you learn a lot. And I can see the value of collaboration across the cultures and discipline. So after I got my PhD degree in UK, I decided to move to the United States because I wanted to explore myself into the countries which we believe that is very, dynamic. So I spent almost 18 years in the United States, and established my research group. And I feel has been very fortunate to work with a very talented student, researcher, and scientists. And looking back, so the past from Vietnam to South Korea to the UK and to the US, and of course now back to the VinUniversity, I feel that I has been very fortunate. But all the things that I learned during that time has been shaped by the curiosity and the passion for science that I have. I got inspired from the teacher and also from students, from everyone that I work daily.
Thank you for sharing that inspiring journey. Your work has made a strong mark in the global research community, and your research on nanomagnetisms and advanced materials had been widely recognized. So, could you explain in simple terms how breakthroughs in areas such as atomically thin magnetic materials could shape the future of technologies like quantum device, spintronics, or smart sensor?
In my research group, so we focus on nanomagnetism. In the simple term, when we discuss about nanomagnetism, we talk about how you create and manipulate the magnetic properties of materials at atomic scale or nanometer scale. So it's very, very small. You can imagine it's 1,000 times smaller than the width of the human hair, right? Very, 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 very tiny, small. Why we are interested in the nanomagnetism or nanomaterials with the magnetic properties? Because it has a huge application, ranging from smart sensor technology to the supercomputer. So, when we, explore the magnetic properties at that very small scale, we really face with a lot of challenges, because when you scale down, the materials, the properties typically degrade or reduce a lot, right? So how we can really thinner the materials, but preserve the excellent or good properties? The nanomaterials eventually even more exciting, because when you reduce the size to the nanoscale, the materials exhibits new properties, entirely new behavior compared to the bulk or mass scale materials. And nanomagnetism, on the other hand, can be understood as a spin. So you may learn from school the electrons. So most of the time that we talk about electrons, the electric charge of the electrons, you may not heard much about spin. So spin is the quantum properties related to magnetism. So when you know about the magnet, you simply know that, okay, when you bring the magnet closer, there is either attract or pulls out from each other, right? But when we make it into the nanoscale, such as nanoparticle, we can easily manipulate the properties, which can be used for many applications. For example, use a magnetic nanoparticle for cancer cell treatment, and for drug delivery. So it's also very important research area that my group has been working on. But talking about atomically thin magnetic materials, we discovered in 2018 at room temperature. So most of the previous discovery occurs in the materials at lower temperature. And for practical application, everything had to occurs room temperature. That's why our discovery has a great potential to revolutionize the current technology. For example, for spin tuning, so we can like control spin at the nanoscale, very, very atomically thin level. This means that you don't need like such a high energy to manipulate a spin. And spin in this case, you can simply understand like an arrow. It can change the direction. So it can change from up, like to down, or from down to up. And scientists came up with the idea that when you change the direction, you can change state from 0 to 1. And that can basically explore for like stored information, right? For quantum communication or quantum computing, so we talk about like single spin, where you can control spin state in quantums, in quantized state. And that describes the huge, like research direction. And now you may have heard everywhere we're talking about like quantum computation and quantum technology. For smart sensor technology, on the other hand, using very thin, very like small nanoscale materials, you can make the device lighter, smarter, and more energy efficient. So that contributes to like advancing technology, and it has like huge impact on our society. That's that part of basically, like the discovery that we have with the new type atomically thin magnetic materials.
That's a very distinctive perspective. At VinUni, you are leading a center that transforms cutting-edge research into real-world impact. Under your leadership, it's growing quickly into a vibrant hub that brings together innovation, collaboration, and purpose. And you aim to make it a world-leading hub by 2030. What is your vision for CMIT, and how can Vietnam leverage such centers to strengthen its global research standing?
I think this is a very important question. So every time when we organize the conferences in Vietnam, so we always wanted to discuss about this important issue. I remember that like when I attended the meeting organized by the government, and Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính one day said that how could we bring the world science to Vietnam, and how to also bring the science from Vietnam to the world. So get back to the question, the CMIT, the Center for Materials, Innovation and Technology. So you see the word innovation here. The model previous center focused on like just the material sciences. So the way we define the innovation, not about the way that we do research. We innovate thinking. So that's the reason why the center, come with a very important mission. We want to establish as like a world-leading research hub. This means that like it's established to promote the science and technology, in this particular case, the materials and innovation. So we, aim to train and develop the talent workforce for Vietnam and also for the world as well. Because when we talk about science, we consider ourselves as a global citizen, right? But here in this country, we wanted to create a center that could, innovate the technology that could bring like Vietnamese scientists from overseas and also the leading, scientists from the world to Vietnam to work together to solve like global challenges and problems. And people asked me that how we could do that. I told them that the reason why I chose VinUni, because VinUni, has a very ambitious goal for that, right? So we expect by 2030, we could become one of like the top world university. And remember that VinFuture Prize Foundation has been, established for like 5 years now. And remember from the very first day when it appeared, everyone's, excited, but also uncertain about it, and see how it has been successful, right? So VinUni or like CMIT, with the big goal to work with like VinFuture knowledge and its network to build up like the center for innovation in science and technology in Vietnam, to change Vietnamese leader, and also like to establish network with all the leading scientists in the world. So if you are in the field, whenever you talk about like the well-known research center in the world, let's say we talk about like the kids in South Korea, live in Japan, or live in the United States, my anticipation is that like CMIT would become one of them in the near future.
That's a powerful insight, Professor. I believe that in years ahead, Vietnam's scientific community will continue to grow stronger, and initiatives like VinFuture will play an essential role in driving that progress. And I know that you also have participated in InnovaTalk and other activities with VinFuture, which emphasize the intersection of science, technology, and innovation for humanity. So, from your perspective, how can such initiatives help reach Vietnamese researchers with global scientific community?
Thanks to Mr. Phạm Nhật Vượng and Mrs. Phạm Thu Hương. So we have like VinFuture Prize Foundation. And in my opinion, the InnovaTalks plays a very vital role in connecting Vietnamese researchers with the global scientific community. And you know that through the VinFutures or InnovaTalks and related activities, so Vietnamese researchers, especially young scientists, has the opportunity to participate, to interact with the leading scientists around the world, which I think is very rare. Not many country even able to do something like this. So that's something that we should be very proud of. And in my opinion, all kind of like the program and also the activity related to the VinFuture. Of course, when we talk about VinFuture, which kind of like recognize the contribution from leading scientists. So I see here in VinFuture, it's like consider the significant contribution, not just from like the scientists, it's like Nobel Prize, but I think it's make it itself like unique and special based on its emphasis on science for humanity. I think that is something is very important. So it considered like contribution from scientists and from innovator. And now that that all come together. But we need to also recognize contribution from people who really advance the technology, not only the people who publish paper in Nature Science, right? So I think we need to recognize both contribution. And I think that VinFuture has been doing very well in terms of that. So what I see is that like through the VinFuture and Talks series, so it's really inspired young Vietnamese scientists, but also like inspires the Vietnamese scientists in overseas. Could you believe that whenever we have that kind of events, lots of us were watching the ceremony and see that house, the event, went on. And I remember that time that we were talking about like, when we have this kind of like VinFuture Foundation, we really, brings the war closer to Vietnam. And at the same time, Vietnamese scientists had a chance to showcase the idea, the research breakthroughs with the leading research states, and also establish collaboration among them. I think it's very, very important for Vietnam to, reflect how Vietnam has been doing in terms of science technology to the outside. And also it's important for the outsider to know what's going on, how the Vietnamese scientists has been doing. So I think that is very, that is very crucial. And I think that like my last point on this is that like, so we used to think that like Vietnamese scientists are following the science that already established by the leader. But why not one day people from around the world following us on something that we are leading, right? So think about like the way that we are, considered as a technology user. We would develop to become a technology creator. So that is something that I believe that like, with the VinFuture and similar program that we have would really promote that perspective.
Thank you for your inspiring view. The VinFuture Prize currently becomes a symbol of Vietnam's growing presence in global science, not only for honoring outstanding research, but also for its vision for science for humanity. And each year, it brings the world's leading minds together and inspires bold new ideas here. With that growing influence, the VinFuture Prize has quickly gained international recognition as a major science and technology award. So how do you see its impacts on inspiring innovation in Vietnam and elevating Vietnamese science on global stage?
As I just mentioned before, so VinFutures, creates a place where, Vietnamese scientists had a chance to witness the innovation in science and technology. So young scientists or like Vietnamese people who have a chance to witness the innovation in science and technology tools like the event or ceremony or like even Innova talk, basically, right? So what, in my opinion, is very, important to be aware of what's going on. So even like the people who are not scientists, they know that, okay, what the VinFutures are doing to recognize the contribution of the scientists and innovators who really, advance the technology that we use today. So let's say, for example, talking about the Internet of Things, talking about AI. Remember like just a year ago when, the AI, innovator and scientists were awarded at the VinFuture event, right? So people know that, everyone's now, cannot live without internet, right? Without like AI. Of course, now is the most of the earth using UI, in so many ways. I mean, of course, we're talking about like positively, right? So this is so important, but people did not recognize this until this kind of like event like VinFuture. So they know that, this is the scientists who really, made a significant contribution to advancing the technology which we can use today. So I think it's very important to make people aware, what they use the technology nowadays. And we should basically pay respect to who discover and advance the technology. That is the first thing that I would say. The second thing is like how young scientists from Vietnam get motivated from this kind of event inform the interaction that they may have with the leading scientists. So think about like many young scientists would dream that one day they would have a chance to talk to Nobel laureates, or now VinFuture laureates. And we know that, during the ceremony, there's kind of like scientific activity where young scientists still didn't have chance to talk directly to, to the idol, right? And I think that it's very important because that motivates radically how young researchers think when they, perform the research. So I could tell you that like, typically when I strongly encourage my students to participate in the conferences, I would like advise them to talk to the leader in the field. And then when they came back, I asked them, okay, how could you, get insight from what you talk to those scientists? And they said that, oh, that's amazing. It's really changed the mind. So I believe that like that kind of like the physical insight and also like the thing that the VinFuture could bring that would really change the way the Vietnamese scientists think about how they do science. And I think that also sent a message to the Vietnamese researcher. The innovation, the world-class innovation is here. It's possible here in Vietnam. So think about like now we recognize the contribution from scientists around the world. But maybe it's like 5 years from now, a lot of like innovator and the Vietnamese scientists will be awarded VinFuture Prize. So that's my hope as well. And that also part of the reason why I came to VinUni to establish the research center, because my hope is one day that we would have Vietnamese scientists, being awarded VinFuture Prize.
Thank you so much. And to wrap up our today's conversation, we would like to hear something more personal from you. If you could share one piece of advice with your younger self starting out in science, what would it be?
In my opinion, the curiosity is very important. So most of the time when we were small, we were very curious about everything. We asked our parents, what is that, why, and how? And sometimes parents just say, oh, you don't need to worry about that, right? But the curiosity is very important because it's kind of natural, like the way that you think, the way that you do, and the way that you want to contribute to society. So in my opinion, stay curious and persistent. Why persistence is so important? Because when we, start exploring things, we see so many exciting things at the same time. And we try to cover everything, but that's impossible. So we should choose something that we think that could be the most significant and impactful. And we could really be consistent following that, research and also dream. And in my opinion, never give up that dream. In terms of the science, so we talk about like collaboration, the mentorship, and sharing the idea. Sometimes my students ask me that if we came to the conference, if we share the idea with other scientists, they would do that and we would not have a chance to do it. How we could avoid this, right? And then I ask them that, at the end of the day, everything that we did, we share with the rest of the world to advance the technology to serve on the humankind, right? So if we could not do it right away, if someone are able to do it, that means that we should really share that with them, because as long as the technology is become available to serve the humankind. We already contribute to that. Other than like holding back the idea and take like 5 or 10 years to make that happen. So my philosophy is that scientific sharing is very important. And sharing among the scientists within the country and also like in global. This is extremely important. That's part of the reason why we always wanted to organize a conference to bring the lay scientists from the world to Vietnam, and also try to increase the young Vietnamese scientists to go outside to participate in the international conference. So in my opinion, that is very, very important. And of course, I mean, it's like be confident. Because most of the time that when I talk to, students, a lot of like talented student or researcher, but I feel that like they lack the confidence.
Thank you, Professor Huong, for sharing your inspiring story and insightful perspective with us today. Your journey shows how passions, persistence, and purpose can turn science into something really transformative for society and humanity. To our listeners, may the conversation encourage you to look beyond the boundaries of your field to see how knowledge, when shared across disciplines and guided by purpose, can illuminate new paths toward a more inclusive and intelligent future. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and tune into Unveil the Future on Spotify. You can also follow the VinFuture Foundation on our website and social media to stay updated on the VinFuture Prize, Innova Connect, and other initiatives celebrating global innovation. And a quick reminder, the nomination portals for the 2026 VinFuture Prize season are now open and will remain so until April 17, 2026. If you know of a breakthrough that can change lives for the better, please visit our website or scan the QR code to submit your nomination. I'm Phương Nga, and it's been a pleasure being your host today. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep imagining, keep innovating, and keep working together to unveil the future.